talk about something that's, well, both incredibly powerful and, let's be honest, a little confusing in SAP EWM. I'm talking about the post-processing framework, or PPF. You know, it's kind of like the magic behind the scenes that makes everything in the warehouse just work. But for a lot of people, it's a total black box. So today, we're going to pry that box open and really see what makes this thing tick. I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got this, organized chaos of a modern warehouse. How on earth does the system know to print the exact right shipping label only after an item is packed? Or, hey, how does it know to ping customs the very moment a truck is ready to roll out? It can't be magic, right? There has to be some kind of smart engine under the hood making all of this happen without a hitch. Well, that engine, that's the PPF. And honestly, the absolute best way to wrap your head around it is to think of it as a giant if this, then that machine for your warehouse. It's that simple. If a certain thing happens, let's say a delivery document gets saved, then the PPF kicks in and triggers a very specific action, like, you guessed it, printing that delivery note. It really is the brains behind all that automation. So, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to figure out what this automated brain really is. Then, we'll get into why it's so important. After that, we'll peek inside its toolkit and get to the bottom of how it decides to act. And finally, we'll look at some real-world examples and show you why this is your secret weapon for customizing your EWM processes. Okay, first things first, the automated brain itself. And here's something you've got to know right away. PPF isn't just an EWM thing. Nope, it was actually designed to be a universal tool across a ton of SAP applications. And what that means is you get this one consistent way to fire off actions no matter where you are in the SAP universe. That's what makes it so powerful.
Now, if you've been working with SAP for a while, the term message control might be ringing a bell. Well, you can think of PPF as its much more powerful successor. And this wasn't just a simple paint job, It's a total engine upgrade. It has way more functions, it's easier to hook into different applications, and it is just so much more flexible.
And that word, flexibility, that's really the key here. It is so easy to fall into the trap of thinking PPF is just a glorified print button. But trust me, its role in the warehouse is way bigger than that. I mean, sure, printing labels and delivery notes, that's its bread and butter, absolutely. But it's also the warehouse's main communicator. It's what tells your big ERP system that goods have been received. It's what triggers updates between different documents to make sure everything is always in sync. And maybe the most important part, it's your gateway to building your own custom stuff, letting you mold the system to do exactly what you need it to do.
All right, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. To really understand how PPF works, you have to know about two key pieces that work hand in hand, the action profile and the action definition.
This is a great way to think about it. Imagine the action profile is your toolbox. It's just a container, right? It holds a bunch of different tools that you need for a specific job. The action definition, that's the actual tool inside the box. It's the wrench or the screwdriver. It defines one very specific task, like print a shipping label or send a status update, and lays out exactly how that task gets done. And it's also inside that action definition that you get to control when things happen. You could have an action go off immediately, right then and there, or you can tell it to wait until the user actually saves the document. You can even set it up to run later as part of a big batch job. This level of control over your process flow is it's incredible. Okay, so that brings us to the big question, right? We know what to do and when to do it, but how does the system figure out the if? How does it actually check the conditions and make that final call on whether or not to pull the trigger on an action? Well, the answer is something called the condition technique, and this is the real intelligence behind PPF. Think of it as this super-structured logic engine that's constantly digging through the data in your documents. It's searching for a specific rule you've set up that perfectly matches what's happening right now. And when it finds that match, it says, aha, conditions are met, go time. And this flow here really breaks it down perfectly. See, it all kicks off with a condition table. That's where you define the specific fields the system needs to check, things like the warehouse number or the goods movement status. Step 2 is the access sequence, which basically tells the system the order in which to search those tables. That sequence then gets wrapped up into a condition type, which in turn gets put into a determination procedure. And then finally, you assign that entire procedure to a business context, like a certain delivery type. It's this beautiful, logical waterfall that guarantees the right thing happens at exactly the right moment. Okay, now here's a little insider tip, something that's really specific to EWM. The system actually throws its own special logic into the mix. So before it even looks at all that standard condition logic we just talked about, it uses a special kind of enhancement. Developers call it a BADI, to run some EWM-specific checks first. This is just a way to make absolutely sure that the action makes sense for the warehouse process before anything else happens. Alright, so that's the theory. Enough of that. Let's talk about the real world. Where are you actually going to see this thing in action in your day-to-day EWM work? Because PPF isn't just a one-size-fits-all tool. It's used a bit differently in 3 main parts of the system. And this table lays it out super clearly. So for your delivery documents, control comes from an action profile you set up, and it really leans on those flexible condition records we talked about. But then you look at shipping and receiving, trucks, transport units, and there the logic is often hard-coded directly by SAP. Then when you get to the purely internal warehouse stuff, like warehouse orders or handling units, it's right back to being controlled by those condition records. Knowing this distinction is huge, because it tells you exactly where to go when you need to change something. So we've covered a lot of ground. What's the one big takeaway here? What's the most important thing you need to remember about the post-processing framework? It's this. PPF is your customization toolkit. It is the official SAP blessed method for extending and tailoring EWM processes to fit your business needs perfectly. Seriously, anytime you find yourself thinking, man, I wish the system would just do this thing whenever that thing happens, whether it's a unique printout, a special alert, or a whole new workflow, PPF is almost certainly going to be your answer. If you can master this, you can make the system do pretty much anything you want. So that really brings us to the end of our deep dive. But now I've got a question for you. With all this in mind, think about your own warehouse, your own operations. What's that one manual step, that one communication breakdown, that one repetitive task that drives you crazy? Now that you know about the framework, what's the first process you'd automate? Something to think about.